If you've ever tried to pin anything on yourself, you'll know that it is extremely difficult. If you don't have a mannequin that you can stand back and actually pin on, when you're trying to do that on yourself, like how difficult is it to get back here? How do you do this? It is a topic I get asked a lot, and as I was just in my, this is my men's suit refashion, I was pinning this all on myself, or about to start, and I thought, why not share my top 5 tips I have for you and how I pin and fit things on myself. Welcome back, my lovely ladies and gents. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. My name's Evelyn Wood and I'm a dressmaker, sewing teacher. And if you follow along, you will know that I am doing a refashion runway collection. And this piece here, this used to be man's suit, sans sleeves at the moment. I'm fitting for a 1940s inspired daywear outfit. And I'm halfway through the refashion, if you couldn't guess. Now, I wanted to talk about actually pinning and fitting garments on yourself. How do you do it without a mannequin, right? It's really difficult. I get asked this a lot. I see this question a lot talked about, like, how do you actually do it? I'll first up say it's not easy, definitely not easy. But I thought that since I'm right here at this stage, let me talk you through. This isn't like how to fit, like where to take all the fullness from. This is about how to actually pin, how to actually do the pinning, the fitting, how to get it on yourself and when you don't have a mannequin to pin it on. The mechanics of actually fitting. So I have 5 top tips that I've thought about that help me when I'm trying to do this on myself. First up, number 1 is to actually put the garment on inside out. That way, when you're pinning all of your seams, you've already got the outside sticking out so you can pin down it easily. You don't have to then take it off and try and flip all that fullness around and repin it and then lose what you had in the first place. If you do it inside out, it lets you go straight down those seams and straight where you would sew it if you were going to, once you've taken all that fullness out. This is a delightful look inside out, isn't it? Oh, with all the hand canvas just like sticking out, flapping around. Wow, and you didn't think that things could look even better. Okay, so number 2 is your equipment. You really need the right gear with you to help you along in this process. If your pins are way over here, it's going to be really difficult to, each time you need one, to go grab them. You need them on you, like on your wrist right here, so you can just pin, hold, right? I have a tutorial for this wrist pin cushion. You can make yourself one out of all recycled materials. I'll link that video below if you want to make your own. Now in equipment, I actually really prefer these long pins here. They're actually florist pins. Now I use these for fittings, not only on myself, but for other people as well, because they get a really big area pinned in really sturdily, a lot easier rather than tiny pin, tiny pin, tiny pin, tiny pin. It's about 3 small pins for one of these big pins in fitting. And when you're trying to awkwardly do it on yourself, it can make a big difference. And when you need strength, say if you're fitting tight fitting bodices or things like that, these big pins work really well because they're so much longer, they get more grip, and they're going to hold a lot better. So some people really don't like them. They're too big and awkward and they can't like deal with it. So, but I personally really prefer to fit with these. I find it easier. These are not suitable for all kinds of fabric, of course, being so big, but as a generally, that's what I like to use to just help speed up the process and make it easier to fit on myself. Make sure everything is on hand in your equipment. You need a tape measure, you need your chalk marker pen, and a pen and paper to write things down, notes as you go. Keep your equipment right on hand and on you. Okay, that's a bit distracting inside out, so I'm just going to turn mine this way for the next one. Next one is how you stand and your posture when you're pinning is super important. For instance, if you're trying to mark a hem or have anything on your hem length down here, the minute you bend over, the hem is dropped down longer, right? So you're no longer pinning at the right level. And instance, if I squish and move through here, it's super important that you stand in the right position and you're keeping that like steady and you're not like doing these and moving all the garment around while you're trying to pin. So for instance, you need to stand really still. So when you're pinning the back, you've got to try and keep everything straight, right? Not doing this because you won't get it right. Keep your body straight. Another is particularly with your waistline. So sometimes if you're trying to pin, everybody's waistline is a little different. So if I stand like this as opposed to this, you can see how that tilts where my waistline will sit on me. So making sure I'm not twisting and bending when I pin in this, like the curve of the waist, because I want it to be at the right spot. So a little like tip is you can actually use a belt, tape measure, something like this piece of elastic to really, whenever you move it around like that, it will naturally fall into your waist, your natural waist, and you do this, comfortable. You can then chalk in a little bit of that line or put a few pins, and to get that correct line of your waist along you, it'll help you guide where you need to make that proper waist curve in. Now as we move down, bending is a big one. So as soon as, if I'm trying to do anything down here, if I bend, it's automatically fallen down and is not going to be in the right spot. So if you need to mark something on your skirt and you want it to stay at sort of the right length, this is what I do. So instead of just bending, stand straight as you normally would with normal posture. Put your hands here to hold the skirt where it will be sitting straight, and then bend because it's all crumpling here rather than getting longer, and then you can actually manage this skirt. Now it's not exact, of course, but that's the best way to get it without having to sort of do many other things about getting straight hemlines. That's something else entirely. So make sure that your posture is quite straight and you're not twisting and contorting to get the shape of your body when you're doing it. It's tricky, but it is important. So next one is, it's really sometimes about guessing. Sometimes you can't pin it on yourself, so you'll need to just visually look and see, and you'll get better and better at knowing measurement amounts. So I can say, that's about 3 centimeters I need to pin in. So I will just guess, mark where, for example, I would put a pin diagonally to mark where my waist is, to know where that curve is, and then take it off and then pin it in that amount that I've guessed, and then keep going from there. And sometimes like I want to take in that shoulder line. I will just have to guess how much that is, maybe about 5 millimeters across, opening up that armhole. I'll just have to guess because I can't even get back to draw on it, take it off and have a look. Which leads into my next one, and that is, unfortunately, when you're pinning on yourself, it really is a game of putting it on, pinning approximately where it is. It'll be all messy and nothing will be straight, and that is fine. Taking it off, readjusting and neatening up those pins and making sure it's all like lining up perfectly, and readjusting, putting it back on, having a look, taking it back off, refitting, repinning, readjusting, putting it back on. You get the idea, right? I cannot tell you, I would take it on and off hundreds of times. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Whilst fitting particularly something like this that there's no pattern or anything, I'm just basically molding it as I go. I take this on and off so many times I couldn't even count, but that's the only way that I'm able to get it. You know, if you have a mannequin, of course, you can put it on and you can like get the basic structure done and then put it on yourself for the final fitting on your body. But when it's just your body, you just have to, it's just what happens. It's a case of taking on, off, on, off, on, off until you get it right. When you get closer to the final fit, make sure, because you've tried it on inside out, it's easy to readjust those pins as you go. And then when you're ready, make sure it's pinned down really, like a lot of pins, nice and neatly, evenly, as if you were going to sew it, so that you can try it on the right way around and really get a good idea of how it's going to fit. That way you know whether you're good to go ahead and sew it right where your pins are, or you need to take it back off again and keep readjusting on off until you get it right. Which this one for me is, it is taking quite a while. There'll be a whole video on the refashion of this, but I thought that it might be helpful for you to hear more in depth about the actual process of pinning that I go through to get it just right. These are things that help me along in the pinning on my own body, on myself process. I would love to hear your tips and tricks below, or which ones you like the best below. Make sure you read all those comments, because everybody sharing their information, tips and tricks is just gold to help you and me get better at what we do. So like this video if you like it, and until next time, bye. And for those of you following along in my videos, yes, this is the tassels, the navy tassels for the refashion that I did recently, just in real life for you, matching the dark navy skirt. Looks pretty amazing, right? That video is also linked below to go and watch that one. I have a lot more on off before I'm finished fitting this one.